you're not interested in investing in G or F funds, and you just want to have an equity allocation between C, S, and I funds. All right. The risk scale between C and S funds is completely different because the C fund invests in large cap US companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and JP Morgan Chase. So on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 5, with 5 being the riskiest, I would rate the C fund at about 3.5 or 4 out of 5. Okay. The risk scale uh, for the S fund is probably, I would say, 4.5 or 5 out of 5 because it invests in small and medium cap US companies that are much more volatile in the market than the large cap companies, generally speaking. The S fund's top 10 holdings are, let's see, Blackstone as of December 31st, 2022, Blackstone, Uber, Palo Alto Networks, Snowflake, Lululemon, Airbnb, right? And some of these stocks have gone down. If you guys ever track individual stocks, some of these stocks were down 20, 30, 40, or even 50% in 2022. The S fund in 2022 was down 26%, while C fund was down 18%, right? So let's compare these three. But does the S fund have more upside than the C fund? Potentially. However, this is a big however. If you look at the last 10-year performance of the S fund, it's returned 9.8% or 9%. This is actually, it's about 9.8% now in annualized return, as opposed to 12% with the C fund or the S&P 500. But keep in mind that like I said, the data isn't always necessarily accurate. Uh, because some of these large cap stocks actually came from medium cap stocks in the last 10 years, right? So how stocks usually work is, as they grow, they go from small cap to medium cap, and then from medium cap to large cap. Apple it wasn't always in large cap. It was, it used to be in small cap, medium cap, and then now in large cap. But if you just want to judge these funds by its performances, the C fund has outperformed S fund in both 10-year and lifetime historical charts. So, and lastly, let's talk about iFund. I personally have not been a fan of the iFund or any international stocks because they have grossly underperformed the US stocks since 2001. The iFund 10-year historical return is 5% annualized return. Let me show you this. It's there we go, 5.38%. Crazy, right? Sorry, zoom in. 5.38% annualized return. And lifetime performance is 4.7%. And why are international stocks underperforming US stocks? Because, by the way, if you're interested in joining my private individual, couple, or group sessions, or my private Facebook group, you can sign up for my private membership group on my main YouTube page or by visiting firesightchat.com/coaching to discuss your financial independence journey. Hedge funds, individual investors, and other institutional investors like pension fund managers have generally avoided foreign stocks because the economies in Japan, Australia, and Europe have not been growing as much as the United States in the past 20 years. That is a fact. You can look that up too. Fact check me. The US GDP, I know we have a lot going on in the economy right now, but the US GDP still accounts for about 24% of the world GDP. And China comes in second with 18 or 19%. The third biggest economy is Japan, followed by Germany. But those two countries combined are nowhere near China or the United States. So, based on the economic data research I do almost every day because I'm a nerd, and I still believe that US stocks will outperform non US stocks in the long term. However, there are a lot of TSP investors who keep the I fund to mitigate risk exposure because when C and S funds experience a bear market, the I fund doesn't get hit as hard as the US stocks, historically speaking, anyway. The I fund performed a negative 14% in 2022, while C fund experienced a negative 18% return. Again, this is my personal preference to invest in C and S funds. If just not something that I'm too excited about. I think they're still going to underperform with everything that's going on in Europe right now and potentially in China, I can't even trust the Chinese economy. They just lie so much about their GDP and the consumer reports. So that's going to be a discussion for another day. But if you're like the iFund, there is nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you do the research and understand how these funds have performed in the past and how you think they will perform in the future based on your own research. And let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below on the iFund. Do you invest in that? Do you like the iFund? And I've read some articles from what's that called, Morgan Stanley, that the iFund or international stocks have hit the bottom. Yeah, it's been at the bottom for the last 3 or 4 years. So they publish that kind of article every year. Morgan Stanley, Chase, and all that. So how should you allocate your money inside your TSP? And keep in mind that you can allocate and make fund transfers once each calendar month, okay? And you also don't want to overdo it because you're not trying to play the market, right? You want to think about the TSP as a long-term strategy. And most of you watching this probably won't withdraw from the TSP for another 10, 15, or 20 years. You're not trying to trade stocks inside your TSP. If you want your TSP to double, it takes about 7 years if you make a 10% return every year. If your average return is 5%, then it takes 14 and a half years to double your balance. The first allocation strategy I found many people do, not financial advice, okay, is 80% C fund, 10% S fund, and 10% I fund. Again, not financial advice. Please don't do what I do, and this isn't even what I'm doing, okay? It's not even my TSP investment strategy, but it's the data that I collected from several people, many people who have over 7 figures in their TSP. And another allocation strategy is having 60% C fund, 20% S fund, and 20% I fund to have more risk exposure to make the S fund do some work, right? And the third allocation is just doing 100% C fund. I like that, right? It's performing the best, and they just don't care for small and medium cap or the I funds. Just do 100% into the S&P 500 index fund. The primary focus is the C fund, which tracks the largest US companies, right? You have to ask yourself if S and I funds can outperform the C fund in the long term. No one can predict how the market will perform, but you're doing this to slide the risk scale left and right. Okay, does that make sense? The other strategy is using the rule of 120. If you're just now joining the live stream, I talked about the rule of 120 about maybe 20 minutes ago. Okay, if your age is 25, then it's 120 minus 25, right? Which equals to 95 or 95% stocks or in 5% bonds. The simplest way is to just do 95% C fund and 5% G fund. I'm not telling you to do that, but that's just a simple way to look at it. Or you can do 70% C fund, 15% S fund, 10% I bond, and 5% G fund. And if you add them all up together, you're still doing 95% stocks and 5% bonds based on your age, right? And I've been doing 50% C fund and 50% S fund because I believe there's a big upside for the S fund in 2023 and 2024 because it's got beaten down so badly in 2022. The S fund usually performs better after the bear market. And I could be wrong, but this is the strategy that I am personally comfortable with. If the S fund performs really well in the next 2 years, I'm probably going to adjust my allocation from what I do is 50-50 CNS funds to maybe 60-40 CNS funds or 70-30 CNS funds. It just really depends on how the S fund performs at this point. And I'm always going to have the C fund because that's the core equity fund in my entire portfolio.